Sexual assault is not really a good thing, and it happens to a lot of people, especially towards their relationships. Um, Back in 2023, of the R word, Alaska had the highest of the average of 108.8.4%, or actually no, 118.4 per 100,000 inhabitants in their state of America. Now, it's not really a good thing, and to this day, there are still cases of the R word and sexual assault and all that stuff. So, today, not only I'm gonna like say how bad this thing is, I'm also gonna say, hey, if you want to get into a relationship, here are some key things that you should do. Like, prepare yourself for being a healthy and not toxic relationship. Let's go. First tip that is actually mostly the most important tip, is to be patient. Being patient is a very big step. No, not a very big step. No, a very big important thing. Like, this is basically the MVP of the whole thing. And if you're not patient with your partner, then there could be some problems. One of those problems is that, one, it might make you it might rush things to the extent where your partner might not like it, because sometimes your partner wants to have a slow pace, and said partner said like they want to have like a very like they want to take things slow, even though you guys are in a relationship and you want to do more things than just holding hands, hugging, all that stuff. You want to kiss or something, yeah. But if they don't want to, and they just want to take things slow, and if you're impatient, then it can lead to problems like complaining, arguing about it, saying you're not giving enough attention, all that stuff. Patience is like the big back, the bridge of everything. And without that patience, it's gonna cause a lot of problems in the relationship. Another tip is to put some trust into your partner. Now, the reason why I say some is because if you put too much trust into your partner, it means that basically you're not really gonna you can let things slide, because your partner could be just doing things that can, like, let's say, doing something behind your back, and if you let it slide, then they're gonna keep doing this more often. And some of those things could be like cheating on you, talking to other guys behind your back, having like an account to talk to other guys behind your back, and more. So if you put too little trust, then that means that basically you'll be like overprotective. And okay, look, being protective over your partner is a good thing, but being overprotective can be overwhelming for your partner, and even overwhelming for you. Because if you keep worrying about him or about them, and like saying like you don't trust them at all, it's gonna bring like a lot of arguments of just distrust. Because like I said earlier, relationships is a big responsibility, and the responsibility is also having trust over said person to be in a relationship. Because it's not something to play around with. It's not something to experiment with, like some type of thing. It's actually a serious thing to take responsibility with. So that's why I said put some trust. Put 50-50, 50% of the trust. So not only you can let your partner slide some things, but you also can like to make sure that you can question them, like, oh, why are you talking to this guy? Who is that guy? And get further information out of them. And if your partner is like being too stubborn about it, then it's probably a sign of like saying that they could be cheating on you. But who knows? Who knows? Because sometimes you gotta have to press on them to get the truth. Another tip is getting permission or consent. Consent is also a very big thing aside from patience. Consent, if you don't know what consent is basically a permission to do something like intimate. Or not really intimate, but like permission to do something. Okay, actually, yeah. In this context, yes. Consent is basically to do something with like their like like to do something intimate, like kissing. It's like, oh, can I, or like do something like, I don't know, going to Pound Town in the sheets, or getting freaky in the sheets, or something like that. Like, oh, may I have consent to just get freaky in the sheets with you, or something like that. But aside from all the joking, consent is a very big thing, and some people in their relationships doesn't even allow consent, which is a very, very bad thing. Because because it depends on the person. If they're fine without consent, then yeah, then they do them. But if they aren't fine without consent, then it's a big problem. Because consent is like getting permission from said person to do something to them, you know? Well, in this context, with like relationship context, to do something intimate with them, like I don't know, like cuddling, snuggling, I don't know, going to Pound Town with them, something like that.
You weird, buddy. You're weird.
So, like I said, consent is a very big part of in a relationship. Another tip, a last tip, probably the last but not least tip, is to make sure they're okay. Give them attention. Because relationships aren't just something that you can just leave behind. I mean, not really. Okay, you can, because you know what? Because you might have a job, you might have or you have school like me, or you just have like things to do, and a relationship is kind of like your last priority. But still, don't leave your current relationship behind you, as you've completely throw it out the window. Because, I have to repeat myself, it's a big thing. It's a big responsibility to obtain, because the person that you're in a relationship with puts a lot of trust onto you, putting trust a lot of trust on you, and if you can easily destroy that trust in many ways. This is one of those ways. Is not giving them attention. Unless if they don't want that much attention, then it's okay. But still, you should give your partner attention, because that's what relationships are basically for. It's to give them affection, attention, comfort, all of that type of stuff. And what to do, what not to do in a healthy relationship, or something you should avoid doing in a relationship, is to be obsessed with your partner. Now, let me explain. Being obsessed with your partner is okay. Hold on. There's some types of obsessiveness. You can control it basically. Obsessiveness, and you adore your partner. You really love your partner. And there's a difference between love and obsession. Obsession is you think it's a prize jewel. Oh, it's a trophy that I have in my hands. While love is basically treating a person right. And being obsessed with your partner, it can get a bit out of hand. There is some certain levels of obsession. And for one of these examples is basically thinking that your partner should be sticking with them and them only. Which is, in my opinion, not good. No, not in everybody's opinion. It's not good. Unless if you're into that, or if your partner's into that, then you do you, man, or you do you, man. I'm not gonna complain about it.
Don't be Melody's good boy.
But being obsessed, so obsessed to the point where you just kept them in your basement and treat them like some type of prize jewel, saying that you're theirs, and he's just really, really jealous over people who taste talking to you or something like that. Yeah, that's one thing to not do in a relationship, is to control your obsession and only love him. Another thing is to respect personal space and make personal boundaries. Okay, you should do that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but you should do that. I forgot to mention that. Creating barriers, getting to know what your partner's limits are, is a very good thing, because you can basically identify what they're comfortable with and what they're not comfortable with. And okay, for instance, if they're comfortable with kissing, but they're not comfortable with fully making out in the sheets, that's one example. In this context, another example is that they're okay with cuddling and snuggling, right? But they're not okay with like I don't know, some like okay, no, okay, gay freak in the sheets or something like that. Or but yeah, that's like two examples. It's creating barriers like that can like really know your partner well, so you can know what to do and what not to do with your partner. Okay, another thing you shouldn't do in a relationship is basically controlling them. And what I mean by controlling them is like controlling their decisions by using manipulation and like ruling over their minds. Because according to what I've taken in one of my classes in ULA, really, if you use rhetoric and like persuasion enough, you can basically rule over someone's mind if you're that good with persuasion and becoming some sort of philosopher or something like that. And yeah, it's true. You can manipulate people easily with your words, which is why there is why we have a president that literally committed so many crimes, yet here we are with him about to be elected and actually be in the office in a span of a year, in like almost in a couple weeks, which is pretty bad. But a lot aside from that is to not be manipulative, because being manipulative is like basically lying to your teeth, like through your teeth, basically, and lying through your teeth is not really a good thing. Now, you don't want to lie, because it basically makes the relationship more toxic. And if your partner finds out, and your partner will be overwhelmed by like just after hurting you in some way, and just like just be overwhelmed, and like they just really consider like their relationship with you. So do not be controlling and whatnot. Another thing is to control yourself and keep your emotions in check. Using emotions in arguments that you have with your partner, because of course because eventually you two will have arguments against each other. Like basically you have arguments against each other, and it's inevitable. So using your emotions in an argument is, let's say, it can lead up to bad things. Keep your emotions in check, stay calm, and try to find a solution to said problem. Because if you don't, and you just use your emotions, it's gonna get worse from there. It's gonna be a whole emotional mess of like a conversation, and you wouldn't really solve anything. Instead, you would just go back and just you two would be either be separated for quite some time, need some space. But needing some space may take a long time. And sometimes even using emotions can lead up to a breakup, which is also not something you want to have, because if you really love this partner, then don't use your emotions. Keep them in check and use your communication skills, your mind, and please keep your emotions in check. Now, I already said this, but to add on as to do not be manipulating to yourself, do not take advantage of your partner. Taking advantage of your partner will lead to many bad things that you will regret and you will face the consequences of. For instance, taking advantage of them for just your own personal gain is actually kind of common, not gonna lie. Okay, especially in this generation, it's pretty common to like have people take advantage of girls, which is why I mentioned in the beginning of like the average of R-word cases in the United States. Apparently, Alaska had the most, while the least is in New Jersey. And the state I live in right now had 28.7 per 100,000 inhabitants in the state I lived in, which is still pretty big. Not gonna lie, it's 28 cases is pretty bad, and we should lower it. But enough from that. Taking advantage of somebody is a very bad thing. Like it's absolutely a crime, because you can take advantage of them and literally do anything to them because you have that advantage. Being like making them at their most vulnerable is basically saying that I have control over you and whatnot. And also another thing to add on is that, well, this depends on the person, because like the person might like this type of dynamic, which is dominant and submissive, or submissive and dominant. But in my opinion, you should have equals. And equals is basically just you two have control over each other, and you guys treat each other fairly, and not something like, I don't know, like back in the 1960s or 50s, where women had to stay in the house and do household chores, while men go outside and just do their jobs, and then abuse their wives afterwards because they did cook a delicate meal. So treat yourselves as equals, because we're not in the 1960s, we're in the 21st century. We should treat ourselves equal, and women and men are basically the same thing. Well, okay, no, not really, but still. And that's all I gotta say. Now, remember this. Do everything that I said, because it's basically just gonna give you a girlfriend. Just kidding, no. Don't do what I say. But keep this as consideration of basically what to have a healthy relationship is. Especially the part of taking advantage of your partner and practically like doing all the very toxic things, silence it out. Don't do that. Sorry. Don't do that. It's gonna lead you into like many very bad things and very dire consequences and whatnot. But yeah. Now, before I end this off, I just want to say this: if you're feeling lonely and thinking that it's like not gonna be possible for you to find love, there's always gonna be someone for you. There's always gonna be someone for you. And sometimes that someone might be not your type, For example, someone could like goss, But instead, the perfect one is not gothic. Kind of crazy, isn't it? But aside from that, take this into consideration and don't do the things that I said not to do. Like taking advantage of someone, for instance. And that's all I gotta say. So, stay safe out there, guys. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, or rest of your night. Who knows? I don't know where you guys live on. And peace out. And remember, believe in yourself. Confidence is key.